All right, you guys, welcome back to another episode of The Common Theory. And as always, I'm here with my man Dallas, but today we actually have a few guests with us, and I'm pretty excited because this is somewhat of a community episode, and we're having some fantastic community members here with us. And part of the reason that they're here with us is that they are the players that have played their decks pretty much the longest. And we're kind of want to hear like their thoughts, like, you know, why they've stuck to their lists for so long. Do they think maybe they're the best, or maybe they don't think they're good at all, but yet they're still playing it? Like, try to see the options and, why they've done what they've done, and even talk about what their thoughts are on the format as a whole and how much it's grown through the times. So I'm very excited to have them here. And if you guys could, please introduce yourself. If we could start with Stein and then move on over to Aaron.
I'm Stein. I've been playing Pauper Commander since probably 2020, maybe early 2021. And I'm known to play Zada, the best Goblin Mommy.
Aaron, take it away, my bro.
I'm Aaron. I play a lot of aggro decks. My main deck is Gut Leader, to be honest with you. And it's a house.
Now that we got the little intros out of the way, you guys, Dallas, take us away, my bro. Like, what do you want to start? Like, what do you have in your mind to like ask these guys? Like, let's pick their brains. It's not every day that we have someone like some people that have been so long on their decks, excluding the Gretchen people. We don't really care about those guys. You know what I mean?
But yeah, interestingly, both of these decks are happen to be very aggressively oriented red decks. So what kind of, I guess Aaron already mentioned that he plays a lot of aggro decks, but what about you, Stein? What kind of drew you into playing Zada over anything else?
The thing with Zada is, so like historically, because I started playing Magic in like the 90s, and I got back in stopped in the 2000s, and I got back into it right before Thrones of Eldraine. And at the time when I got into that, I was like, what is this commander? So it kind of got me into that. And playing Magic, I've always been kind of more of a Gruul kind of player. I like that kind of like stompy, aggressive kind of play kind of thing. And in CDH, I got it hooked on playing Marwyn, which is very kind of big and just explosive. And Zada's kind of the same way, big, explosive kind of plays. And it just kind of like clicks with my play style.
Aaron, was there anything unique about Gut over the other aggro decks for you?
Yes. Gut, however, is super low to the ground. There are no 4-drops whatsoever. From 1 to 3, I can survive off 3 mana. A lot of decks can't.
That's definitely an upside for the deck.
So I got a couple questions for you guys. I know you kind of came into the format much later than Stein here, Aaron. And I know when you started the format, things were starting to already start to move in a forward direction. That's actually when Stein actually had a little bit of resurgence with Zada, and you had started to come back, or you came back here into the format with us, and we're like, hey, let's push some aggro. And question for you both is, once upon a time, the format was said to not like rituals, not like you had to be the big Timmy, big splashy giant creatures. And you kind of already alluded to, Aaron, like your deck doesn't even play 4-drops. Your curve is 3. I've also seen you, Stein, storm off and make your creatures, I don't know how big your creatures were, but you could swing over 220 damage a turn. You guys gained some really absurd board states, and honestly, it sounds like a ton of fun. If we could kind of start with you, Aaron, on this one. Like the draw to playing your deck for such a long time, you had to lose a lot, right? When you started playing it, or you lose a lot now or then, or kind of what was
I was the bottom of the barrel. When I was playing with the common connoisseurs, man, they were like, aggro ain't in it. There's no aggro in this format. It's all control. Bloody. I'm like, well, I don't like control. I don't like combo. I don't like none of that. So I played aggro, and I just kept at it. I probably played over 100 plus games before I actually got my first win. After I started winning, then they started becoming scared of me. So I just kept on and on making changes, trying this, trying that. Eventually, they got to the point where I was a threat to the table instead of just being a laughing stock.
I don't know if that's somewhat similar to you, Stein. I remember that Zada was like made fun of when I had first joined the format years ago. Well, not the format as a whole, but the format, like the online portion of the format. People were like, Zada, yeah, that's a joke. It loses to Lightning Bolt, right? What are your thoughts on that? Is that what happened to you?
Well, so when I first joined into it, like, I got a lot of eye rolls when I started pointing at Zada, but like, I was kind of playing Zada different than a lot of people were playing it. A lot of people were trying to like have Zada out there for value, and now it's more like, no, Zada's out there to kill the board. Because I started out with Hockey Rules' list back in the day, and I really morphed it to a completely different deck kind of thing. Because like that played a lot more interaction. Mine's all about just turboing out and like storming off and killing everyone that way. It took a while to get to a really comfortable spot. Like I said, I still got like eye rolls. Oh, it's Zada, and then like people started realizing I did, and then like hate off the table kind of thing. So,
and on mine, you'll have people saying, "Oh, Gut Leader's a mid-range deck." It's not. They have to slow me down, which slows the game down.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting. The fact, me and Puzzle have actually had this debate quite a bit, where some people will assume certain decks are what they really aren't. But then when you ask like the deck builders themselves, like you, right? You just said, no, your deck is an aggro deck. I've heard many people say your deck's a mid-range deck. And I've also heard many people say that your Zada list is an aggro deck, but you were just saying it could storm, right? It's a storm list, I guess, is better.
Storm
right?
combo.
Zada is definitely a storm aggro deck kind of thing, but like the storm is the main component of it, and it's just the aggro is the way I'm finishing off the game kind of thing.
Yeah, so combo, right? Quotation marks, combo deck,
combo.
right? At that point,
combo aggro. Yeah.
Yeah, like you swing to end the game, but it definitively ends the game. It's not infinity, but right, you're still swinging for like over 200. Like that ends the game, right? Like so. Puzzle obviously is one of these people too here with us that plays his deck over and over and over again. So let's get your opinion on it. Well, what do you think?
I mean, I play a combo deck, so I didn't have the I don't even know what word to use. Prejudice.
Hang on.
Words.
Hang on. Before you keep going, hang on. Whoa, Tati. I mean, Weaver. I'm messing this up. What deck are you playing?
You're right.
That is not as good as the other two that I was talking about.
Yeah. So, as everyone I'm sure knows at this point, I play a lot of Gretchen. I was talking to Bobby yesterday or the day before, and he was like, "I think you have more games recorded on Gretchen than I have games total." I was like, "Yeah, that's probably right." So I play that deck a lot, and I didn't have to deal with people being like, "Combo's not a thing. Simic combo doesn't exist." Mine was a lot more, "Why would you play Gretchen instead of Weavers or Tatiova?" Which was still annoying, but like it was a valid concern, I would say, because those are established decks, and I'm doing something similar to Weavers at least. So that comparison, it makes sense. I think Gretchen has established itself plenty well at this point. I think it's better than Weavers, obviously, if I'm still playing it at this point. But yeah, I didn't have to deal with the whole your archetype doesn't exist, which also, to just get it out there, I was one of those people. I didn't believe in aggro. Aggro was fake. Like, you're playing at a pod with how many Tatiovas, and you want to try to punch people? But yeah, aggro has definitely evolved as an archetype, I think, in the format.
So, Puzzle, I got a question. Why not playing the best to make deck? Parcel Beast.
I completely forgot about that one.
You know, it's a deck that exists. It's not a bad deck per se, and it's actually probably almost closer to Gretchen than Weavers are, I guess. It's kind of like
I would agree. It's just more complicated.
Yeah, it's like the high roll Gretchen the floor is a lot lower if you don't get your stuff going. But if you get your stuff going, I mean, the value engine is probably better than the average Gretchen engine, or the best Gretchen engine. So
Yep.
the ceiling is higher, but the floor is also a lot lower, and I prefer my consistency.
With all that said, it sounds like all of us have somewhat evolved with the format as a whole as well. What has changed a lot since Stein? I think you've been here longer than most all of us. You took a little bit of a hiatus. Did you end up seeing anything from that term where you were in it and then gone and then came back? Was there anything like really changed from that point, or?
Games a lot quicker. When I first started getting into competitive Pauper Commander, it was the tryhards days, and it was not uncommon to have 2, 3, 4 hour games. Like, those are fun and all, but like in a competitive scene that just drags out. When I left, the games were getting shorter, but they were still pretty long games. And when I got back, I was like, oh, people are turn 6 games. I was doing that last year with Zada, but like now it's more common for 5, 6, and 7 games kind of thing. So like the meta is definitely sped up a lot, and as like people like to say, the meta is definitely a lot greedier.
What is your thoughts on that, Aaron? Do you think it's kind of greedy, the meta, right now? I'm asking you that because I've seen you be the guy that's sitting at the table as the aggro person you are, thunderclapping, bolting, and controlling people's creatures. But I don't find that to be greedy. Maybe I'm wrong with my thought there, but...
Well, I'm not saying everyone is greedy. There is more greedier players, I'm saying, in general.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
There's always greedy players, but then they get punished for being greedy. I wouldn't say greedy. It's just that I have interaction to a lot of the stuff that they win against. Like, I mean, what, Malcolm? He's what, a 2/2? I can thunderclap that. Who cares if I lose a land? I told you I can survive off 3 lands. It doesn't matter. As long as I'm not flooding, I'm rolling.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. You know, you both have like similar low to the ground style decks, but they're still like literally polar opposite. Like, Stein is all gas, no brakes. Aaron, you're all gas, no brakes, but yet you still have interaction to interact with people, to like stop combo turns, tempo players out. Stein's like, you do that. Here's 232 damage. You're now dead. I don't have to interact with you if you died. Like, that's kind of like what I've seen your guys' decks do. Is that fair to say?
I'm also playing colors that are white and red. White's to protect, and red is to just keep on going and pushing through their stuff. However, white can also sometimes, depending on the card, can hurt your opponent's stuff by like targeting their stuff, hexproof, protection, stuff like that. So it's not the typical blue that you would see. Oh man, a counter spell. Okay, and it's just like, I can play Apostle's Blessing. So 1 colorless mana and 2 life. And I can stop anything that you throw at me. So it's like, oh, I'm going to lightning bolt that. He's got nothing. All he's got is a white land up, or he tapped down his white lands. He's got a red land up. He can't protect gut. Yeah, I can.
What about you, Stein? What are your thoughts on that?
It's one of those things, like, not every deck has to have every answer kind of thing, and that's kind of how I built Zada. There's more freedom in deck building that way, because like for instance, in blue, you don't automatically have to have all the counter spells because you're running blue. I play a Rosada list every once in a while that has no counter spells in it, because it just operates differently. So like,
Yep.
It feels like, since we've kind of moved away from the older meta, there's more freedom and more creativity available to build and construct decks kind of thing.
And the only thing that sets Gut apart from Zada and like Dargo Kedis is that Dargo Kedis can take down the whole field by himself. Zada can have 1 explosive turn and kill everybody. Gut Leader actually has to take down a person 1 at a time, which sucks, but as long as you're fast enough, it don't matter.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed. Puzzle didn't jump in there. We're like, hey, he said it. He said it.
Yeah, like, that is the big problem with Gut, in general, yeah, like Dargo, Kedis, and Zada kind of ease that issue of not being combo by still just killing everyone at once. Whereas Gut has a lot of that extra, like you're adding decision making to your gameplay that you have to be able to figure out who to kill in what order and on what turns and all that.
And if you mess up, and I've had games where I've messed up where like I'm doing good, and then Gator will be like, after the game, he'll be like, you should have attacked him, the other aggro player, because now he's going to kill you. He's now got the upper hand upon you. And I'm like, oh, well, I wasn't even thinking about attacking him. I'm just trying to get the combo players out of the way and then saving him for last.
Well, and Zada has similar issues too sometimes, because sometimes you'll be trying to storm off and you don't really get there enough to kill the entire table. So it's like, that's a conception about Zada. Like Zada, like people are like, well, you just win the game when you just go off. Not always. Sometimes you have to like, you got to figure out who you're actually killing, kind of thing. Sometimes, so on the surface, Zada looks a lot easier than she is, but she's kind of more deep than she's portrays, kind of thing.
Zada's also greedy because, well, that your list is greedy, but you have that one explosive turn where it's like, well, if I don't do this now, I can't kill everybody. Or if I do this now, I can kill everybody. But if I don't, then I'm just going to be sitting with cards in my hand, and I'm going to have to rebuild to try to do it again, which sucks. I mean, I get it. Well, I hate wasting resources. Kind of like me, right? Let's say that I want to lightning bolt somebody, but they've only got 1 health. I don't want to waste that extra 2 damage to lightning bolt somebody with 1 health versus I can lightning bolt somebody with 6 health and get them closer to being killed. I hate wasting that extra 2 damage.
Well, the thing is, like, for instance, in the league, one of the weeks, I threatened wins on turns 5, 6, 7, and finally 1 on 8. Once you get your engine going, kind of thing, if you get enough cards in your hand, you can just keep attempting the win on each turn, kind of thing.
I think that's kind of the benefit of playing those greedy decks, right? Like, obviously there's a cost, right? You can't interact with people. You can't stop them, especially if someone is faster than you. That's a problem. Oh, yeah. But once you get to that point where you're just able to jam win after win, it's like, I'm either going to get there or I'm not. And that's just the mindset of the deck in general.
The mindset of playing a deck like I am, where we're playing a really greedy deck, you're not going to win every game. And like, you can't like beat yourself up for not winning because you just didn't get there.
So you guys are actually bringing up the last topic that I want to bring up with you guys. And I actually think this is going to take a little bit of time, but I really want to get it out there. And this was a topic I saw over in the home base a few weeks ago, and I found it to be incredibly interesting. So one of the statements that I read was, you're not playing competitively if you're not politicking. And I think there's 2 huge problems with that overall, right? And I'm looking at Aaron and Stein when I say 2 huge problems overall. Can your decks even truly politic, right? Like, this is the question I'm going to ask you guys is about politics specifically, because from my perspective, also playing aggro and playing similar lists that are incredibly explosive, when you sit down at the table, let's say I'm you, Stein, and I'm sitting down with Zada, everyone knows what I'm going to do. Everyone knows I'm not going to interact with them. They know that I'm going to just try to run you over. And looking at you, Aaron, same exact thing. As soon as I make that first combat step to go, hello, you player A, I'm attacking you. And I've seen it time and time again where player A goes, you picked me? Dun, dun, dun. Right? And now their life is just on the line and they're going back and forth with you. And you're like, yeah, let's do this. What are your guys' thoughts on that politics overall? Like, do you guys actually politic, or is it kind of like, maybe I should be quiet and not say anything, or like, what are your guys' thoughts?
So depending on the setting, if I'm playing a friendly match, sure, I might maybe politic. But when it's competitive, like when I went to Philly, nope, I ain't telling you nothing. Unless we definitely can't win without my help, I ain't doing nothing. Because I had a guy that literally looked across, and he was one of the top players. And he looked across at me and he's like, are you going to keep attacking me? I said, yep.
It's kind of funny. Yep, that's what my deck does, right? Well, I mean, isn't that kind of like the problem though? Like, could you even politic your way in any direction with that? Like, if they're like, "Oh, are you going to keep attacking me?" You're like, "Yes, that's what my deck does," right? Like, this is literally the game plan. So, is that politicking? Could you politic? Like, Puzzle, what do you think?
I think with Gut specifically, politics can still exist, right? Not so much in the traditional form, but more so in the sense of being like, hey, man.
Tell me one thing a Gut player could say. I won't kill you this turn. I'll kill you next turn, bro.
No, you tell them that if they kill you, they're gonna die immediately, and then they go, "Oh, you're right. My targeting was bad." So if they're playing poorly, you can politic with them.
It's not even politicking. This is lying.
No, it's not. It's literally not, though. Like,
from a Zada perspective, the politicking is typically like, if someone looks like they're going to stop something, I'm like, and I know I'm not going to kill everyone, I'm like, no, I'll save you for last. Let me do my thing.
Or, if I am the target,
that's not politicking.
If I'm the target for Gut right out the gate, and I oubliette someone else's commander, I now have opportunity for politics. If you kill me, you unoubliette their commander, Is it gonna work? I don't know. Maybe. So let me... It's an option.
I have to interrupt you with that statement. So, words of wisdom from my co-host would be, why are you playing bad cards?
Doesn't matter.
That's what he would say.
I played the oubliette. It exists now. So now you have the decision to make, right? There are ways you can politic with Gut. Whereas, if Zada's going off with their 200 damage turn, everyone's dead. Same as a combo deck. There are instances where you can politic with decks that kill people one at a time, which is Zada 1/3 of the games and Gut every game, right? So, there are occasions. Or Ether spell bombs in play, the stuff like that.
Well, and another thing that I like to do, as Chris loves to point out, is I love to misdirect the situation. Don't look behind the curtain here. Nothing's going on here.
Yep. See, that's kind of how I think politics are with decks like that. They're not actually politics. It's it's a misdirection, right? It's like, oh yeah, you just state what you have. Oh, guys, I have no cards in hand. But you have the whole board is flooded and everybody else has 4 lands, and you have Dargo, Ketis, 6 tokens, another creature, a goblin, and you're like, well, I have no cards in hand, guys. And they're like, that's true. We have 7 in hand, and then they lose. So that's the weird politicking thing that it's so hard.
So with Gut, right? True politicking cards, I would say, would be like a stave off, right? Like, hey, they're going to win after your turn. Do you have something to stop it? Maybe. Do you have anything to stop it? Maybe. I don't know. Let's see. So they play it. It gets to them. They don't stop it. It gets to the other person. They don't stop it. Well, you have no choice. You either stop it or lose the game. But I don't want to tell my opponent, yes, I have a stave off.
Yeah, but you could though, right? You technically can tell them. So
it's I got an answer for it.
I could see that.
I got you.
They
ain't winning this turn. Or like a thunderclap too.
Let me ask that last question. This is a little off topic, but Puzzle's one of the few people that understood this when Gut started becoming a little bit popular. I pretend like Gut always has it if I'm playing against it. Puzzle also does this. I just assume they have the protection spell. Every time, because there's so many games where I've seen just the blowouts where they're like, haha, 1 removal spell, and then Gut's like, stave off, and you're like, oh, I'm dead now, and then you just run them over. So, is that a common scenario when you play Gut?
Yes, you leave up that 1 white mana, and it scares the crap out of people. If they know what the deck does, you leave up 1 white mana, even though you don't have it. You just act like you got it at all costs. And then, like I said, Apostle's Blessing. I can leave up red mana. And then they're like, oh, no, he ain't got no protection. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
That's a fun one.
Or he's got 2 lands, right? I'm going to go off for the win. There's no way he's going to get rid of his 2 lands. Thunderclap. I don't give a crap.
Yeah, I've seen some explosive games from both your guys' stacks, which has been very fun. Like I think the most unique game I've seen from you signed was you ventured through the dungeon to win the game. I don't know how many times you did it, but it was like some
Kick in the
ridiculous
door.
amount. Yeah, I honestly don't know, but it was like a lot. It was more than 8.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
Yeah, kicking the door is a pretty spicy card in Zada.
You were just like, yeah, go through it. You lose 5 life. Go through it. You lose 5. I was like, what is happening? And I was just watching the game. I wasn't participating in it. And I was just like, what is he? How did he even get the thing to begin with? Like, what happened? It was very strange, but yeah, I really enjoy watching the different ways you guys play the decks and navigate your games and whatnot. So
personally, I think when we were playing Shields of Velasvel, the best thing to do, especially when you're playing against Larry, is when they got a Shepherd of Rot on the field, and then someone has like maybe 3 or 4 creatures. You just Velasvel their creatures. Now they're all zombies. So yes, I'm taking damage, but we're taking 4, and then how many ever damage they got on the field for their zombies.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I always like cards that do multiple things. But with that said, Puzzle, what else do you got for them?
I think we've covered a majority of it. We could talk a bit more about what kind of pod composition do you guys like to see playing the more aggressive decks? Do you want to see other aggressive decks, hard combo decks, control decks? What do you want to see?
I'd rather see probably all combo decks. Either all combo decks or maybe 1 aggro and then me versus 2 combo. I hate playing against control because control normally has answers for me, which kind of sucks. And then I have to focus away from the combo player to try to get to control player, but then it's kind of hard decision making because you also need the control player to stop the combo player. It's a mess at that point. But I would rather have combo players because then they're all fighting each other trying to win, and I'm just chilling, just attacking people.
So my favorite pod is a pod without blue.
Yeah,
he went without blue.
Works,
that's funny.
Yeah,
because when Zada's on the field, she's very hard to interact with.
That's fair.
Larry's probably the best ally in the game. Oh, he's training everyone. Oh, just making my job easier.
I use Larry to my advantage too sometimes. But it's a double-edged sword though, because when you play against Larry, yeah, you're taking that 3 damage, but all of a sudden it's like you're getting into like turn 6 and 7, and it's like, man, Larry's a problem. And then you have to convert your eyes from doing what you're doing to attack Larry. So that's where I was failing at when it came to having another aggro deck at the field, because like, oh, well, he's just attacking the other guy. He ain't going to attack me. And all of a sudden he starts attacking me, and I'm just like, I probably should start attacking him now.
Yeah, aggro decks can't be friends the entire time. It's really funny whenever I see games come down to at a pod with 2 aggro decks whenever one of the other 2 people die. And then it's like, okay, well, now if I swing out to kill that person, I just die on the crackback immediately. And it gets to a really awkward situation that I personally enjoy, being that third player. I just get to sit there and watch them try to beat over each other and take out each other's attackers and all that fun stuff.
It also puts one of the aggro players in an awkward situation. Like, let's say that you're one of the corner players, right? Either 2 or 4. This aggro player is stopping this one. This aggro player doesn't have to attack that player no more. He can just keep attacking the aggro player because he can't do anything because the first person's going to kill him. So the second guy is just using him as a barrier, a wall. Then when that other aggro player gets you both within range to kill you, it don't matter then.
I assume that's not as much of an issue for Zada, but
no, because Zada can kill you with everybody.
Zada just tramples over the other aggro player at that point.
But with that said, I think that's it. Anything else for him?
I think that covers it for me. Any last remarks from either of you guys?
Don't do drugs.
Well, so Gator.
Best statement ever. Don't do drugs, bro.
So, like, one thing I've talked to this Gator before. He's like, the benefit of like playing the same deck over and over again is like it allows you to really kind of like hone in on that one deck kind of thing, and it really allows you to pay attention more to what's going on, and it allows you actually to help you for at least for me learn the other decks in the meta too, because you can kind of observe what they're doing instead of having to like focus on your game plan and trying to figure out what's going on kind of thing. So that's one benefit to playing like one deck for a long time.
When you play a deck for such a long time, you become so comfortable with it. It doesn't matter what deck you're facing. You're just like, I already know what I'm doing. I have a feel for what I do. I could be like, oh, look, a butterfly. And I still know exactly what my game plan is. And it doesn't matter to you. New decks even approach you and you're like, look, new deck, sorry, I know my deck. I will trample you over. I've always really liked that about players who play their decks for such a long time. They have such like a bond with it almost, right? And they just know it in and out. And you get to these awesome games where you see them like, okay, if this is the bolts, well, I have 4 copies of bolt style cards in my deck. So I'm going to draw the bolt here mathematically. And like you see them just like flip over the top card and it's a lightning bolt. You're like, oh my gosh. And it gives you like that big, like crazy moment because they're able to know how well their deck is and how their deck functions. And I've always enjoyed that quite a bit. And that's kind of one reason why we actually asked you guys in general, because you guys obviously have played your respected decks for such a long time now and have put up so many results. I don't know anyone in the format at this point that doesn't know Gut Leader and or Zada, right? So it's really hard to even say like, oh, those aren't decks at this point, right?
With the whole deck thing, like even like I play Gut Leader, but I also play other decks too. Sometimes I want to add my thoughts of playing Gut into that deck when that deck is not actually doing what Gut is trying to do. So then you start, oh, well, why isn't this deck like Gut? Because it's not Gut. You have to play it differently. If you play that deck for a long time, then you're going to start incorporating, oh, well, I played this deck. I can just pick Gut back up and keep playing it. No, because then you're going to start doing the same thing. It is what it is.
I've had that issue before where I start making all my decks, like all my blue decks end up being the same. And then I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't work. I actually had that literally last night. I was playing a Malcolm Nadir deck, and that was the most failed experiment I've had in quite a long time. We'll just leave it at that. But yeah, I was having a lot of love for Malcolm and trying to make a different variant of Malcolm, and it doesn't work. So you definitely have to understand when you do finally get off of that deck you've played for so long that you need to see that this is a different deck, not try to treat all of them the same.
It goes the same with building too. Like, I mean, me and Gators built multiple decks, and it's like it keeps going back to like, man, this deck's not Gut, and it's not going to be as good as Gut, but we're trying to make it as good as Gut, and it's like, then you feel like, oh, it's like failed.
I feel like Stein has felt that a little bit with Rasad. Maybe I'm speaking out of line there, but like you try to go all in with Rasad, and it just doesn't do the same as Zada.
Well, look at Parcel Beast, right? Parcel Beast wants to do the same thing Gretchen does, but is Parcel Beast Gretchen? No.
Yeah.
So Parcel Beast is the lower tier of Gretchen. Even Puzzle said that. It's not good unless it's going. Unlike Gretchen, it's like, oh, Gretchen can just
go all the
time. Pop.
The Rasad list I took, actually, it was the list that Islane and Ryan, as in Papa Popper, were like, they worked on. Because my approach to lists is if I take someone else's list, I try to like jam games out to kind of figure out the nuts and bolts of the list kind of thing before I start taking it apart. I think Rasad is really cool. I just, right now, how that list was built is like, it's okay. And even Islane said it's not the greatest list too, because he's massively changed the list since him and Papa Popper altered the list. Because like I said, because I play Zada so much, I try to find another list out like I'm trying to vibe with right now. And like Aaron is saying, it almost feels like when you play one list for a long time, you almost put that list on a pedestal because like you just know it so well kind of thing. And it's just like you try to play in the list, is like, is this as good as this my main list kind of thing? It's just like it's almost hard to like in that aspect to like pick up another list in that aspect. And that's always how I've been. Like I play, like I said, in CDH I play Marwyn. I've been playing Marwyn for 4 years. I have like 5 decks that I've built in my since I've gotten back in the Magic, really, and they're all pretty much those decks I play all the time. I just play decks built differently than people do, because a lot of people will build like they get almost ADHD with their list, and they build like 20 lists in like 3 weeks. I'm like, why? None of these lists are all that optimized.
Or
And it's just like it's just a different mindset kind of thing.
or you get some lists like Papa Popper makes that's like, wow, it's blue and black. Wow, that looks exactly like the deck you built last week because it's got the same core, just a different commander.
I do that a lot. Whenever, like, I have my package of staples that I use whenever I'm building a new deck, and then I'm like, all right, Rakdos time. I haven't brewed a Rakdos deck in a long time, and I import my packages. I pick a generic commander, and then I'm like,
Rakdos.
this is a Rakdos pile. And I think that happens a lot in the format in general, because, like, we just have a lot of, like, good generic removal and card draw. A lot of things that make the good decks in the format really good. It's just the strong synergy pieces more than anything else, right? So it makes those pile decks just feel so rough whenever they don't have that strong synergy aspect, in my opinion.
I agree.
Well, I mean, look at the Malcolm deck that I just literally said earlier that I took apart, right? That was me building another Malcolm deck, and I had like 2 different decks, and I just like smushed them together. And I thought it was cool. Like, I had a Murmuring Mystic side plan to where the point of the deck was actually a token strategy, and I figured I would just tutor for Murmuring Mystic, put Murmuring Mystic into play, do all this other cool stuff, and I was like, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to have Mirkwood Bats, and, you know, and as soon as they stop this, I'm just going to combo off with Nadir. That was not at all what the deck did. The deck was just like, look at all these cards that don't work with any of these cards. And I'm like, this deck sucks. And I was
Or you
like,
draw the wrong half.
well, no, because like it was just like a melding of, I try to mush my other Malcolm red deck with this Malcolm deck because they're both Malcolm decks, and I had like the same, just like Puzzle does, the same staple package I like to put in, and it just didn't work. It was just like garbage, and I'm like, how could I fix this? And then I was just looking at it, and I'm like, you can't. These are 2 different decks smashing into one deck, and it just doesn't work. It is what it is.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things. If you want to have a unique deck, you have to dedicate the time to optimizing it and getting it to a good spot, kind of thing.
Well, it's fit to your playstyle as well.
Yep.
I mean, my playstyle might be different than Gator's playstyle. You know, he might pick a card, and I'm like, why do you pick that card? And then he looks at me like, why do you play that card? I'm like, I don't know. I just like to play it.
They also could be a super slippery slope too. Like, there's some people that are known for certain decks, and it almost feels like they're gatekeeping decks, kind of thing. It's like, yeah, like for me, how I see it is, yes, I play Zada, and I've built the Zada this way, but this is not the definitive list. I feel like might be a good place to start if you want a competitive list. But like, you can take Zada in a couple different ways, also too. I'm not going to be offended if you want to go other ways with it. This is just the way I like to play Zada. And like I said, I don't play interaction really in Zada list, but there's other Zada lists out there that have a lot of interaction. They have the bolts, the other stuff to deal with things, and it's just a different style of play.
It's just based on your play style.
Well, I would like to put out there, though, I like using your guys' decks as like even a baseline to start. Like all 3 of you guys here. You've played those decks so much and so often that I could just message you guys, right? Like, we're all real friendly in the Pauper community, so we could like DM or maybe, you know, ask somebody in a Discord server and be like, hey, Aaron, why do you not play Goblin Grenade? You have 30 goblins in your deck. And then Aaron will tell me, and it's like, Puzzle, why do you not play Rewind? And Puzzle goes, oh, I used to, but I no longer play it because of A, B, and C. And I go, hey, Stein, why don't you play Seething Song? And you're like, oh, I'm actually going to test it next week. And I'm like, oh, wow, I would really love to hear your thoughts. I really enjoy the players that do play the deck for such a long time because you guys actually do get the games, you do get the reps, and you have tested those cards. To this day, I have yet to meet a player that doesn't. I don't get to go, hey, why are you not playing that card? And you guys just answer.
And what I do And if you look at my Mox field and stuff, and you look at my decks, anything that's under considering, I've tested it and touched it, and have determined, like, to me, it ain't working properly. But the reason I put them into considered is so I don't forget. Like, oh man, have you tried Twisted Lightning? Like, have I tried Twisted Lightning? Oh yeah, I have, because it's in considering. It's process of elimination. I just weed it all out.
Yeah, my considering is similar. Like, it's a list of cards that like I've either played with or like cards I feel like could go in the deck, kind of thing. It's just different variations, because like within Red, there's ways to ritual in certain ways that there's only so many rituals you kind of need in the deck, kind of thing. And I feel like where I'm at with this list is I'm happy with the amount of rituals in the list. But like, I still have some of the more powerful rituals listed and considering. So if someone sees a list, they can see, oh, maybe I want to swap this and this kind of thing. And so it gives people options to kind of Lego out the deck itself, kind of thing.
But with that said, I just want to say thank you guys so much for being here with us today. I really appreciate you guys' time and everything, and it was fantastic talking with you.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great getting to talk with you guys today. Hopefully everyone listening enjoyed as well. Bit of a scatterbrain all over the place today, but it was a fun one. Make sure to leave your thoughts down in the comment below. Subscribe if you aren't already. Leave a like. If you want to support us on Patreon, you can find that link in the description as well.
Only $1 a month.
Yep, as cheap as you want.
That's cheap. $1 a month. Come on.
But yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time.